Hello, friends. Welcome back again on the I Have a Vision Academy YouTube channel. In short, I Have Academy. So, without any further ado, let's jump straight to our today's topic: funds transfer from center to state. So, in this, we will be holistically covering 2 to 3 topics regarding our economics chapter. So, इसमें हम दो चीज़ पढ़ेंगे. The first one is the funds transfer through finance commission of India. In this we will study two. छोटा सा लिख लीजिए, the devolution part and the grants in aid part. And the second heading यहाँ लिख लेते हैं, we will be covering regarding the other grants. And this will include the central sector schemes and centrally sponsored schemes. In centrally sponsored schemes, again there is subdivision. क्या क्या है? The first is core scheme, then core of core scheme, and third is optional. So half of the lecture is regarding all these topics. Now without wasting any further time, let's start the polity section of Finance Commission. So Article 280 we all know. Under Article 280 of our Constitution, it means Finance Commission is a constitutional body. So under Article 280 of our Constitution, it writes that President in every 5 years or before will constitute the Finance Commission, which includes one chairman plus 4 members. They will be given the terms of preference. ठीक है, कुछ इनको terms देंगे. I think यही है terminology. Terms of preference ही थी. So they will be given some guidelines that on these particular macro topics you have to decide which will define the criteria to give these devolution and grants and aids to the states. Now the Finance Commission, which is currently 15th, the chairman is N.K. Singh. Actually this Finance Commission was constituted in 2017, but another term has been given, which is from 2021 to 26. Understood? The 14th Finance Commission was under Y.V. Reddy. Now there are lot of parameters given to this body of Finance Commission, that on these parameters you have to decide upon the devolution to the states. Understood? So ये क्या क्या है? सबसे पहला है income distance. So suppose there are two states. This is state 1 and this is state 2. Now the average household income in this state is 20 and the average household income of this state is 30. So this is nothing called but income gap. ठीक है, या income distance. Now this income distance will be used as a criteria by the Finance Commission to recommend the devolution to the central government. So income distance holds the highest priority. I think the weightage is 45% around in the criteria. Then comes the population and area of the state. So this comes at the second. So there are 3 to 5 these criteria given, and the last is the tax efforts. The state's efforts to increase its tax base. ठीक है, तो ये है हमारा लास्ट पॉइंट. उससे पहले और भी है, फॉरेस्ट एंड इकोलॉजी पे है एक. अंडरस्टूड? तो ऐसे ऐसे हमारे पास 5 से 6 है। इधर डेमोग्राफिक डिविडेंड भी है, डेमोग्राफिक परफॉर्मेंस भी एक। नाउ देर आर वेरियस थिंग्स दैट फाइनेंस कमीशन विल रिकमेंड टू प्रेसिडेंट। क्या क्या थिंग्स हैं? फर्स्ट इज द अमाउंट ऑफ डिवॉल्यूशन। एक मिनट। So the first recommendation will be of the devolution. Now there are two types of devolution. You all have studied vertical and horizontal. Now what is vertical devolution? The distribution of net tax proceeds of, ये economical term है, net tax proceeds. What is the meaning of net here? It means there is some expenditure incurred while collecting such huge amount of taxes for India. So that tax amount will be cut in the revenue collected. So वो एक काट देंगे and this is called net tax proceeds, which is the divisible pool, which will be shared by the state governments. Now the vertical devolution, it means the amount of distribution of net tax proceeds going to number of states from the center. So some amount, y amount will be held by center and the rest amount, मतलब 100 minus y% will be distributed to number of states. Now this distribution, like interstate distribution of these net tax proceeds, will come under the horizontal devolution. So both these recommendations will be given by the Finance Commission. So vertical devolution is, according to the 15th Finance Commission, is 41% to all states. Mind you, UTs with or without assembly will not get any share from this 41% of divisible pool. Their revenues will be given to them via the Home Ministry, with or without assembly, doesn't matter. Now this horizontal devolution will include these 5 things. Interstate distribution, the cess, the surcharge, the revenues collected in the union territories does not come under the divisible pool. It means government of India is not liable to distribute these tax proceeds. कौन कौन से? cess, surcharge, then tax collected in UTs, as well as the expenditure incurred while collecting these taxes. So these types of things will not be shared with the state governments. The Finance Commission will also recommend some of the augmentations done to the consolidated fund of states. क्यों ये augmentation कर रहे हैं? To augment the amount which will be distributed among the states as well as the local governments. So indirectly, Finance Commission will give some recommendations to the State Finance Commission, because the State Finance Commission is the responsible body for the distribution of net tax proceeds among the states as well as their local governments. So this Finance Commission will augment the recommendations of State Finance Commission. Understood? The basic premise of all this मैं आपको बताना भूल गया. In 7th schedule, there are division of power, distribution of power in central list or union list, state list and concurrent list. In union list, there are some of the areas where union government can collect taxes. In state list, the same goes for the state governments, areas in which state has the power to levy and collect the taxes. and in the concurrent both have the power to levy and collect the taxes. So this is the basic premise of all the funds transfer from center to state. Again, a random point: the areas from which a government can collect tax. This term area is very large in the state list, but the momentum, the mass in this area is very less. मतलब मान लीजिए this is a state. Now the areas in which the the state government can levy its taxes are various in number: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. But the magnitude of tax collected from this vast number of areas is less if we compare it with the union government. So union government areas are only a few, the sources are only a few, 1, 2, 3. But the magnitude, the momentum of this tax collection is very huge. That's why it is on the obligation of center to distribute the revenues to states. So we are discussing the Finance Commission. The first thing we have discussed the devolution, the funds distribution from center to states as well as in interstate. The second thing, the funds, the Finance Commission will give recommendation to augment the state funds and the distribution of the state funds to the local government. Various other things or areas which can be given by President to Finance Commission कि भाई आपको इन एरियाज में भी you have to recommend me how the funds distribution will take place. So this is all about the Finance Commission, the devolution part. Now we will jump to grants in aid part. Another main thing is the funds given under Finance Commission are untied in nature. Untied means there are two types of fund transfer. First is tied and second is untied. In the tied subdivision, the amount of funds which will be transferred to state governments, they have fixed obligation or aim or areas in which state government can apply this expenditure. If the center is giving 100 crore to state government, and if these funds are tied in nature, so state government has to follow the directions given by the center. Center will direct state that I have to build a water resource infrastructure, और क्या बोल सकते हैं हम, मान लीजिए रोड इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर, या तो पंचायती राज इंस्टीट्यूशन की डेवलपमेंट करनी है मुझे. सो स्टेट को यही चीज़ें करनी पड़ेगी, द थिंग्स विच हैव बीन डायरेक्टेड बाय द सेंटर. सो दिस इज कॉल्ड टाइड नेचर ऑफ फंड्स. सो द फाइनेंस कमीशन फंड्स आर अनटाइड इन नेचर. द नेक्स्ट थिंग वी विल गोइंग टू स्टडी इट्स grants in aid. Now these grants in aid are somewhat tied in nature. So now we will study grants and aid. First absorb this. Now the other part, grants and aid. In this we don't have to dwell into deep. Only you have to get the surface knowledge of this. So there are 2 to 3 kinds of grants and aid, like sector specific, state specific, then revenue deficit grants, grants to local bodies. So such a type of grants in aid will be given to the respective state, and the principal governing grants in aid is decided by, अभी तो बताया, फाइनेंस कमीशन हैज टू पार्ट्स, द डिवोल्यूशन पार्ट एंड ग्रांट्स इन एड पार्ट. जनरल क्वेश्चन अभी मैंने बताया था आपको, which criteria assumes the highest priority in the preferences of finance commission while devolution of funds to state governments. सबको पता है, इनकम डिस्टेंस. और इनकम डिस्टेंस मैंने जैसे बताया कि वी हैव टू कंपेयर टू और मोर स्टेट्स to calculate this income distance. So you have to fix one basic state from which you will be comparing all the other states. तो what is that fixed state? Base state कौन सा है? It is हमारी छोरी के छोरों से कम है, तो हरियाणा. So this was grants in aid, and these are of somewhat tied nature. Yes, ये अनटाइड डिवोल्यूशन के लिए था, एंड ये है समवट टाइड. These grants in aid from the central government will be transferred to the consolidated fund of state governments. ठीक है, ये शायद से 2014 या 15 से ही हुआ है. So these grants in aid will be transferred to the consolidated funds of state government, and then while passing a law, a money bill from the state legislature, they can use these types of funds. Now we will jump to the other grants part. Now in the other grants part, there is central sector, like Sagarmala project. So in central sector, 100% of the money or funds will be given by Government of India, as well as Government of India is the implementing agency in the implementation of central sector schemes. Central sector schemes are generally covered in the subjects of यूनियन लिस्ट. ऑब्वियस है, कॉमन सेंस. द सेकेंड इज सेंट्रली स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कीम. यहाँ एक और एग्जांपल लिखना, फसल बीमा योजना अगर आपको लिखना है, पीएम फसल बीमा योजना. Centrally sponsored scheme are generally those subjects which will be covered under state list. Now there are three types. A committee has been formed, I think around 2014 or 15, which simplified and rationalized these centrally sponsored schemes. So previously there are huge amount of centrally sponsored schemes, and some of them are not doing anything. They are defunct, obsolete in nature. But this committee recommended that please rationalize the centrally sponsored scheme, and these schemes should be less than 30. So then only this centrally sponsored scheme has been rationalized into three categories: core schemes, core of core schemes, and the optional schemes. Now what is centrally sponsored scheme? So the main idea is central government plus state government both will contribute to the fund which will be used in the development of our economy. So this ratio can be 50-50, can be 75-15, 90-10. So generally 90-10 for the Himalayan states. So this ratio can be varied. In the core scheme, it is mandatory. Core of the core, yes, mandatory. And this optional. So as the name suggests, this is optional in nature. The government enrolls a scheme, and it is on the discretion of the state to adopt this scheme or not. If the state is adopting this scheme, so it will enter into a contractual form विद द सेंटर, कि भाई दोनों ने डिसाइड कर लिया, सेंटर और स्टेट्स ने, कि 75 और 15 में हम कंट्रीब्यूट करेंगे और ये काम ऑब्जेक्टिव हमारा ये है. सो एडिशनल फंड्स विल बी ट्रांसफर्ड, कितने 75 टू द स्टेट गवर्नमेंट फॉर द इम्प्लीमेंटेशन ऑफ दिस स्कीम, एंड द 15 विल बी 15 या 25 will be given by the states. So this is optional scheme. अगर हम थोड़े एग्जांपल ले ले तो कोर स्कीम का क्या है, पहले मनरेगा देख लेते हैं. MG नरेगा 2005 में आई थी. ये क्या है, महात्मा गांधी नेशनल रूरल एम्प्लॉयमेंट गारंटी स्कीम. तो मनरेगा स्कीम है, कोर ऑफ द कोर स्कीम में आती है, एंड इट इज़ मैंडेटरी टू इम्प्लीमेंट बाई सेवरल नंबर ऑफ स्टेट्स. कोर स्कीम में PM ग्राम सड़क योजना. माइंड यू, वी आर सब कैटेगराइजिंग द सेंट्रली स्पॉन्सर्ड स्कीम. It means both center and states have the obligation to contribute to the fund which will be implemented in the development of these schemes. So core में भी centrally sponsored है, core of the core में भी centrally sponsored है, and optional में भी centrally sponsored है. So PM ग्राम सड़क योजना is a central sector scheme. Yes or no? No, it is centrally sponsored scheme. PM ग्राम सड़क योजना comes under the optional category of centrally sponsored scheme. No, it comes under core scheme of the centrally sponsored schemes. So like these you can encounter the question in the prelims exam. और ऑप्शनल में तो बहुत सारे हैं, अपने हिसाब से देख लेना. सो दिस वाज द होलिस्टिक टॉपिक वी हैव कवर्ड अबाउट फंड्स ट्रांसफर फ्रॉम सेंटर टू स्टेट. नाउ अ स्मॉल टॉपिक विच वी विल कवर इज ऑफ नीति आयोग एंड फाइनेंस कमीशन. मिटाई देते हैं. So if you are not a beginner, everybody knows there is a former planning commission, which was set up at the time of independence, and now we have Niti Aayog. I think 2014 or 15 में बनी है. So this was the formal body. Replacing the planning commission, now we have Niti Aayog, National Institution for Transforming India, ऐसे करके इसका फुल फॉर्म है. Now these both are premier policy think tanks. अब इस फ्रेज से आप एकदम चौकन्ने मत हो जाना, बहुत ही ईजी टर्म है. ऑर्गेनाइजेशंस हैं विच विल प्रोवाइड डायरेक्शनल इनपुट्स एज वेल एज पॉलिसी इनपुट्स टू द गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया. सो उसी को बोल दिया गया पॉलिसी थिंक टैंक्स हैं ये. दिस वाज द फॉर्मल बॉडी एंड बोथ आर एग्जीक्यूटिव बॉडी. इट मीन्स नॉन स्टैट्यूटरी, नॉन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशनल. सो बाय क्या बोलेंगे इसको, एग्जीक्यूटिव ऑफ द प्रेसिडेंट, ये दोनों बॉडी बना दी गई हैं और गवर्नमेंट ऑफ इंडिया. ना जो भी आप देख रहे हो नाम, यही इनका काम था. प्लानिंग कमीशन का क्या काम है, दे विल एनरोल इन द फॉर्मुलेशन ऑफ 5 ईयर प्लान्स. नाउ 5 ईयर प्लान्स विल बी डेल्ट इन डिटेल. तो ये कोई पढ़ाने की चीज़ नहीं है, ये आप अपने स्क्रीन पे एक बार देख लीजिए. होप सो आपने अच्छे से देख लिया होगा. सो नीति आयोग कम्स by replacing planning commission in 2014-15. Now there are some basic differences. Between both these bodies. The first is planning commission has some funds allocation power, but this power is not with Niti Aayog. So it is purely a policy think tank. Planning Commission used to formulate the central plans, as we have discussed the 5-year plans, and these central plans will be dictated to the state governments. In Niti Aayog, there is a governing council, and this governing council includes chairman, which is our PM, Prime Minister, the members, which are the chief ministers of all the states as well as union territories. Union territories में कौन होगा? Administrators. So these will constitute the governing council. Now the idea of constituting this governing council is we have increased the say of the states in the formulation of central rules. So hence come the other point. It is top down approach, while this is the bottom up approach. So these are some of the main differences between Planning Commission as well as नीति आयोग. अब नीति आयोग और भी बहुत कुछ करती है, जैसे इसके कुछ मिशन चल रहे हैं. अटल इनोवेशन मिशन, अटल टिंकरिंग लैब्स इसमें ये सेटअप करती है. देन SDG सस्टेनेबल डेवलपमेंट गोल्स, इंडिया इंडेक्स, सम इंडेक्सेस इट यूज टू पब्लिश. फिर इसके 7 ईयर फ्यूचर के जो प्लान्स हैं इंडिया के लिए, 15 ईयर पॉलिसी प्लान है, वो सब आपको पढ़ने की ज़रूरत है in respect to our mains syllabus. So this was something about Planning Commission and Niti Aayog. Now we will start today's land reforms topic, and then in the next class or in the next to next class we will complete the land reforms topic. So today is the introduction of the land reforms topic. So please, after watching this video, write a question on the main topic that discuss the land reforms phase in the pre-independence India. तो ये आप लिख लेना, discuss the land reform phase in the pre-independent India. So land reform start करते हैं. So land reforms स्टार्ट करने से पहले हमको ये पता होना चाहिए कि लैंड रूल्स पहले क्या थे. So we will cover it in 2 phases. During Mughals, and second is during Britishers. And the third topic, the land reforms in post-independent India, we will be covering in our subsequent lectures. So during the Mughals, the land is owned by the state or nation, जो भी बोल लीजिए. And in this year there was a question on nation. So nation के क्या क्या होते हैं? 4 होते हैं. छोटी सी जनसंख्या होनी चाहिए रहने के लिए, एक फिक्स्ड टेरिटरी होनी चाहिए, थोड़ा सा उनमें कॉमननेस होनी चाहिए, और लास्ट है कि सॉवरेन होना चाहिए स्टेट. ठीक है, तो ये हैं 4. लैंड इज ओन्ड बाय द नेशन और स्टेट. तो कौन है अभी? मुगल किंग. दिस मुगल किंग हैज सम दीवान्स और नवाब्स which are tax collecting officers of the state. These divans are in contact with the zamindars, which are acting as intermediaries, and these zamindars we are collecting the taxes from the peasants or land laborers. So this was the rules of the taxation in the Mughal era. The peasants are giving the taxes to zamindars. Zamindars are acting as an intermediaries. Hence, zamindars will cut a portion of these collected tax and they will have their money or salary, and rest of the taxes will be transferred to the nawabs or diwans. Diwans are the tax collecting officers in the court of Mughal king. The land is owned by the state or nation. During Britishers 1757 and after that 1765, these two dates signifies a very important turnaround in the Indian history. अगर आपको पता है तो बहुत अच्छी बात है, नहीं पता तो एक बार देख लेना जाके. ये मैं बता देता हूँ. ट्रीटी ऑफ इलाहाबाद. So the Diwani rights of Bengal, Bihar and Odisha are transferred to the Britishers. Why? Because Shah Alam II, the Mughal king of then period, was defeated by the Britishers at the Battle of Buxar. So आपको थोड़ी सी हिस्ट्री याद करवा दी. Now during Britishers, a number of land reforms and types of land reforms has taken place. So first of all, we have Warren Hastings. So Warren Hastings was the first गवर्नर जनरल ऑफ बंगाल आई थिंक. और कैसे याद करते हैं, मैंने आपको ऐसे बताया हुआ है, ये हिस्ट्री क्लास में हो जाएगा. थोड़ी सी गुजरी लैंग्वेज है ये. अगर आप गुजर के बारे में कुछ पता है, गुजर कम्युनिटी के बारे में, बहुत प्यारी लैंग्वेज है, फनी लैंग्वेज होती है. वाको वेल मीने हड़पो, समझ तो आपको आ गया वो थोड़ा सा हिंदी में. वॉरेन हेस्टिंग, लॉर्ड कॉर्नवालिस, लॉर्ड वेलेस्ली, बंगाल टाइगर ऑफ बंगाल, समथिंग लाइक दैट. देन मिंटो एंड फ्रांसिस हेस्टिंग्स. ठीक है, तो आप ऐसे याद कर सकते हैं. वॉरेन हेस्टिंग इंट्रोड्यूस्ड अ 5-year tax collection system in which the highest bidder will be given the rights of the दीवानों और नवाब्स. क्योंकि ये तो अब डिसफंक्शन हो गए. वाई? बिकॉज ब्रिटिशर्स won the war of 1765. So these are discarded from the court room. और मुगल किंग भी बहुत ही ज़्यादा सबजुगेटेड हो गए थे थोड़े ब्रिटिशर्स की पावर के ऊपर. सो वॉरेन हेस्टिंग्स, आफ्टर अज्यूमिंग द पावर, he coined a 5-year tax agreement in which the highest bidder for the tax collection will be rewarded the rights to collect the taxes from the peasants. But these zamindars who are converted into the nawabs or tax collecting officer, these don't have enough experience to bid for these rights. Now what happens? These zamindars used to quote huge amount of money. ये क्या है हाईएस्ट बिडिंग, मतलब क्या है? It means whatever taxes will be collected by these peasants, what is the highest number of contribution you are able to give to the state, that is Britishers. So this is the highest bidding. ये जमींदार अपने पास रखे. और what is the highest bid you are contemplating to give it to the British province. So unexperienced zamindars used to bid very high, and at the end of the year there will be losses. कहाँ से लाएंगे भाई, इतना पैसा लाएंगे कहाँ से, इतनी उपज ही नहीं हो रही. And moreover in the history section we will study that there is no capital investment in the agriculture scenario of India at that period of time. So we can't increase the output so we can't increase the taxes after a certain limit. So zamindars used to default on this return of taxes. So this concept was a utter and humiliating failure. Then comes Vaco Cornwallis. So Lord Cornwallis आपको पता है, permanent settlement. So this Cornwallis was a shrewd guy. So he called up his administrators and he assigned these administrators the function to analyze and survey the previous land records 10 years, so that the British province will get an average, will get a bracket that yes, in the previous 10 years we are able to collect revenue between 10k to 20k. So according to that the future predictions can be made. So hence in the permanent settlement system the future predictions has been made that this much amount of the tax which is collected will be given to the British province. So this was Cornwallis's permanent settlement system. Now we will proceed to the next, that is the Rayot Wali and Mehlwari. अच्छा ये सब तो मैंने आपको बताया नहीं, इसकी और क्या डिटेल्स हैं. इन द परमानेंट सेटलमेंट द ओनर्स of the land which was previously belonged to the state, now the zamindars are made owner of the land. It means the British provinces neglected the ownership rights of the peasant, landless laborers, tenants, tillers. So these zamindars became the owners of the land. Now these zamindars will collect the taxes from the peasants and then they will give it to the British province. So this zamindari system was heritable word है या नहीं, hereditary word है, hereditary करते हैं, hereditary as well as transferable in nature. In the history we will study mansabdari was not hereditary, but this zamindari system was hereditary and transferable in nature. Understood? This permanent settlement, I think 1792 was the year in which it was introduced. Now we will move on to the Rayot Wali as well as Mehlwari system. This permanent settlement, I think ये बिहार, बंगाल and उड़ीसा में आया था, and absorb this. In the south, in Bombay, and Madras. So in the south, there was no system of zamindari system. Why? Because zamindars or intermediaries are not present in that area. So direct ryots, which is the south terminology of peasants, are made the owners of the land. Hence, it is the obligation of the peasant or the रियोत to fill its tax returns. ठीक है, ये मॉडर्न लैंग्वेज हो गई टैक्स रिटर्न्स, पर आप समझ जाइए. So this was रियोतवारी system and the last one is महलवारी system by Holt Mackenzie. एरियाज कौन कौन से है? सेंट्रल प्रोविंस ऑफ इंडिया, देन नॉर्थ वेस्ट प्रोविंस, देन पंजाब. So these were the areas in which Mahalwari system was introduced by Holt Mackenzie. Mahal is a term for village. So whole village will contribute to the taxes of British province. तो इसमें और रियोतवारी में डिफरेंस क्या हो गया, या जमींदारी में डिफरेंस क्या हो गया? देखिए, all the households in a particular village will aggregate or collect their tax to a single household, and this household representative of the village or mahal will give the whole amount to British province. So that's why mahal was the smallest unit of taxation here. Here individuals like riots are made the owners, and hence riots are the taxation unit. And in the first zamindari system, the intermediary zamindar is made the owner of the land, and it is the obligation and responsibility of zamindar to collect the taxes from the peasants, land laborers, tenants, tillers, and give it to the British province. ठीक है? So these were the land reforms before the pre-independence in India. In the next class, we will dwell into the subject of post-independence reforms. कौन से? Land reforms in India. So till then, please like this video, share it with your friends, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. तब तक के लिए goodbye. जय हिंद.